Disclaimer: this video will be purely focused on Promised as a whole and will not be talking about Ale as a person. In this case I will be separating the game from the creator. Alright, let's begin. Hi guys, and wow, you guys absolutely destroyed my expectations on the last Fangame review, with an astonishing 30k views as of writing this script. You guys seem to have really enjoyed the last Fangame review, so it made sense to do another one, on Promised specifically. So without further ado, let's see if Promised really was all people were cracking it up to be. First and arguably the most important part of a Fangame, the gameplay. The gameplay of Promised is, quite frankly, very generic. Your classic bone jumps and such, but this actually works in its favor, heavily. It's probably the best Fangame you can possibly pick to delve into fight-based Fangames. The fight is easier than Sans in the original game, which is what the developers set out to do, so it does its job well. However, the attack design definitely could use some work. A lot of the attacks are really bland and don't really test any specific skill, making the attacks blend in and feel very boring when you replay it. The final attack is actually pretty good though. Along with the final few attacks of the Fangame, the gameplay starts to pick up and more intricate attacks start being introduced, specifically this one, where you have to keep moving on platforms to escape the rising bones. Sadly, the fight's already over by the time you get to the good parts. However, I'm glad this fight is so short. It really makes a Fangame stand out by not overstaying its welcome and having a bunch of unnecessary phases. Anyway, yeah, you get the point. The gameplay is good. Next segment. The visuals of this game are, quite frankly, astonishing. The sprite work is some of the best I've seen in a while, and I know a lot of people dog on the game for it having a goofy Sans design, but I think it's pretty well done for how hard it is to sprite. The purple shadow on his face is probably my favorite visual choice, and the whole Fangame just makes the visual style of the game stand out compared to others. The fact that even the Undertale logo has a purple shadow to it is such a nice touch and makes this Fangame feel so complete. The snow and trees in the background are also amazing touches. The GUI was untouched, and rightfully so, since it's an AT and not an AU. Having a different UI would be really stupid and would make absolutely no sense. The music is probably the reason this Fangame got so popular. This Fangame's music is absolutely insane. It has such a noticeable beginning and has become a staple in the Undertale community for its fast and amazing rhythm. It also somehow just gives off the vibe of I can't stop you but I'll at least keep you busy enough to get everyone to safety vibes. I'm not a music genius so I can't describe why, but it just does its job so well. He really did never miss a beat.
This jacket at work today and now.
The dialogue in this Fangame and personality of Sans is perfect, and one of the only recent Fangames I've seen capture it perfectly. A lot of people seem to think Fangames like Tez and the Rain get Sans's personality right, but not nearly as close as this one does. Sans is sort of laid back but also isn't treating this situation lightly. He is a bit more serious than his original iteration, but that's because he's breaking the status quo and trying to stop you at an early point in the game, which would warrant more serious discussion. Even the fact that your save point updates your level from 4 to 6 because you killed Toriel and there's no save point up until the end of Snowdin during that time just makes this game feel like a perfect what if of Undertale. The dialogue isn't too long, it's simple and gets its point across while also being hard hitting and giving you plenty of insight on Sans's thinking process at this moment. But let's be honest, Bubbles did it way better. This Fangame is hard carried by the amazing. Now for some of the critiques that I, and many others have with this Fangame, but I think the main one, at least for me, is how unreplayable it is. Once you've beaten the fight, there's nothing else to do. I suppose you could try to no-hit it, but that doesn't really give you anything. An achievement system akin to ULB Renewed and Disbelief would be perfect. Achievements like, beat the fight without healing, joke with Sans 3 times and then insult him. Stuff like that would give the game replay value. Stuff like a hard mode where maybe you take double damage and Sans uses buffed attacks, or a damage slider could allow for challenge videos and people to set goals for themselves, as on its own the Fangame is actually pretty easy to know it. Stuff like this would make the game feel more like Well, a game. Instead of a one-off fight you play for 5 minutes, beat first try and then uninstall it never to be played again. People also seem to hate how the fight has random difficulty spikes and unsight readable attacks, which I can kind of see in some places, but I wouldn't say it makes the game hard, more just makes people annoyed that they couldn't no-hit an attack because they weren't paying attention. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have for this segment. On to the consensus. So, is Promised a good Fangame? Yes, absolutely. I would say its greatest weakness is attack design, which is probably the key part of a Fangame in my opinion, but hey, there's nothing we can do about that now. If you want to play a Promised Fangame with more refined attacks, I would suggest the remake by Ben Labno on Game Jolt. I'll be leaving the link in the description for anyone who wants to try their hand at that. If you take anything away from this video, take away the advice I gave out for attack design. Anyway, get me to 2.5 thousand subs and get my dust video to 50k views please by my
It worked today, and now bro thinks he's Mr. B.